Welcome to the Referrals Podcast, the show designed to help everyone from the solopreneur to the Fortune 500 company win the referral game. If you want to build a company with an army of ambassadors and raving fans who speak highly of you and refer you willingly, you are in the right place. And now, here is your host, Michael J. Maher.
Hey everybody, this is Michael J. Maher. Welcome to another episode of Referrals Podcast. And I am so excited about today's session. It's not even funny. Today, we have Josh Anderson here from Nashville, Tennessee. I can't wait for him to describe what he is doing. I almost feel like I need to say, like, Josh is smarter than you when it comes to getting referrals. And I can't wait for you to hear what he is doing to get referrals in his business. His growth chart, his progress is off the charts. But before I do that, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone out there who has made Referrals Podcast one of the top 12 podcasts in the world. We are so excited about that, and we're in the marketing category. So for Referrals Podcast to be at that level in the big giant category of marketing is amazing, and it's 100% our listeners. You have subscribed on iTunes. You are downloading every week. You are making this happen. But the thing is you're not just listening. What we've seen is you are spreading the message. You are sharing what you're doing and what we're doing here. And I just have to say, you have created a high bar for me and my team, because we need to make the guests better. We need to make the downloads better. We have to make everything better. And I have to be honest with you, that has supercharged my team. And you have done that. Referrals Podcast listeners and viewers, you have done that. And, top 12 in the world in marketing, huge accomplishment. We should all celebrate, including you and us, and we're going to. And the other thing, too, is I have to give a big shout out to Tanya McLeod. She is in the Atlanta, Georgia area. She did an iTunes 5-star review. Thank you, Tanya. And it is, Michael has such a gift. He's so easy to listen to and learn from, so relatable, and gives massive value always. His books are such easy reads and packed full of incredible content. This Referrals Podcast is no different. Listen, learn, and grab those free downloads like I did and increase my business. So that's awesome. And Tanya, kudos to you. A shout out to you. Thanks for the 5-star review. And without further ado, we need to bring on Josh. And I have to tell you, we have planned this for 60 days. I think we have been on each other's schedule for 60 days trying to make this happen. We finally made it happen. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Josh. I am so appreciative of you being here on Referrals Podcast.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, and congratulations on top 12 in the marketing category of podcasts. That's amazing.
I'll tell you, now I know why they have the emoji of shaking my head. Because it's just like, oh my gosh, it is amazing. I mean, it's marketing too. And we're not talking about marketing. We're talking about referrals, communication. Not that we're counter to marketing. We definitely kind of fit under that umbrella, but it's really more communication than it is marketing. And it's been exciting to see, your name up there with the Jockos and the Seth Godins and the other great ones that are that I've read and followed throughout my years. So I think first and foremost that I want to, besides welcoming you to your show, is just say thank you for your service. I know that you served in the Army for 10 years, and I think from all of us at Referrals Podcast and Refer Co., thank you. Thank you for your service. And a lot of people know that I talk about this win the war, build your army of ambassadors, enjoy the battle, and that kind of thing. And we say that almost tongue in cheek, though we do have to win in real estate because second place pays zero. And we have to win in business because in many cases, second place doesn't pay anything. But compared to the war that you envisioned and the battles that you've seen, what we do is nothing. And I just have to say thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
So let's start about your progression, right? When did you get into real estate for the first time? When did you become an entrepreneur for the first time?
Yeah, so I got into real estate in April of 2006. So I had about a year and a half before it just like went to the crapper. It was like but I had my head down the whole time and I didn't know any difference. So got in the business in 2006. I did 23 transactions, which was about 3.5 million.
Solid first year.
Yeah.
You know? So what did you do to go from 0 to 23 that first year?
I had $5,000 and I refused to ask my dad for any money. So, and I always tell people now, you've got to have 6 months worth of, money set aside. Otherwise you're going to set yourself up for failure. But 0 to 23, I was networking. I was on nonprofit boards. I was volunteering at events that I couldn't afford to go to. And that was the only way I could get into them.
All right. Hold a second there. Right.
Yeah.
So you were volunteering at events. You couldn't afford to hold the events, maybe even at that point, and you really hadn't found your niche yet necessarily. So networking through volunteering for these events, and what a great strategy in and of itself, And and then you were talking about, what else did you do?
So I did lots of open houses. I probably did 60 to 75 open houses my first year. But, going back to the volunteering thing, I didn't realize it was as good of an idea. When I tell people that, they're just kind of like, wow, like what made you think of that? And I go, well, it was out of necessity. I didn't have any money. I had $5,000 and I couldn't. So my now wife and I we were new to Nashville. I'm originally from here, but moved away for 15 years. And we wanted to go to all these events around town. And I was like, well, we can't afford the $40 each. And so let's just email all the executive directors or all the people that are chairing the events and see if they need volunteers. So we go early, volunteer for an hour or two, and then we get in the event for free. And so it was actually a pretty good idea, and I didn't realize it.
It's a brilliant idea. I love it. For all now, in this case, you were kind of doing it for the entertainment aspects. But somebody,
because one of the things I told the chairs of the event, I said, will you please introduce me to all the other volunteers? And then I'd have my database.
That's right. And you got to meet the people who were paid to be there. And you got to meet people probably you would not have normally gotten to meet. I mean, there's no better place than behind the scenes with a lot of these things.
And nobody besides the other volunteers knew that I wasn't there and a paying patron.
Yeah, exactly. And the way that you carry yourself, hey, listen, you weren't carrying yourself as a subservient, homeless person. You were carrying yourself as a, what, I'm going to dress up, I'm going to look sharp, and I'm going to look just as good as the next speaker, That's right. I love that. And it allows people to build relationships and learn how to build a relationship with event chairmen and event coordinators, which I have to tell you from my aspect of life is it's a difference maker. It's an accelerator for your business. And on the open houses, you weren't doing your open houses. Whose homes were you holding open?
I was doing all the agents that had listings in the office. That all these agents had listings, and I was like, I looked up one day and I go, these guys have listings and they don't even want to do open houses. So they were like happy that this new kid on the block was wanting to do open houses because it freed them up on their Sunday. And
it made their sellers happy. Win-win-win.
Made their sellers happy. So, and then I got all the leads off of it. So then and I don't know that I closed a whole lot of deals off of that initially, but I got really comfortable in front of people talking about a house. I had to figure out how to connect with somebody in 7 to 10 seconds when they walk through that door. So,
yeah, I will tell you, I just watched Patch Adams. What is the name of that movie? Patch. Is it called Patch? Patch Adams. We're talking old school. This movie came out in like 2004 or something like that. Maybe even before that. But Robin Williams, anyway, the bottom line is his suggestions to all these doctoral students was to get out of your box, meet strangers, have to learn how to talk to people, because a lot of doctors at that time especially unfortunately even now, don't have a lot of that, what I would call that bedside manners. You had to learn what we almost call like curbside manners. Your curbside manners went up because you had to learn how to, talk to strangers and how to build a relationship in 7 to 10 seconds. And and you were talking real estate all the time, and the people who came in thought you were an expert in real estate. So what'd you have to do? You have to learn really fast, because nobody wants to look like an idiot. That's what I love about real estate is you want somebody to learn really quick, put them in a situation where they're the realtor. And then all of a sudden they got to learn.
You either perform or you fall on your face and you fail forward, hopefully, or I mean, those are the, one of the girls several years ago that worked with me, she goes, oh yeah, your training program was really good. By the way, she does like $70 million a year in volume. And she goes, your training program was really good. You basically just threw me to the wolves. And I go, yeah, well, that is the training in
That's
real
right. Well, you got to have wolves to throw you to, first of all.
Right. So I
right?
gave you, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And then second of all is you know, it's kind of like learning to swim, right? They throw you in, you learn how to swim. You either perform or you fail.
That's
and
right.
either way, you're moving forward. And that's the beauty of it. So I love that you had and you're not sure how many transactions you necessarily got from open houses. It probably surprised you looking back. You probably got more than you thought. And then you got onto boards. And I have to tell you that's kind of a gutsy thing for a younger person because when we think of boards, a lot of people think of boards, they think I've got to be like uber successful and I've got to be like, have $100 million company. But so how did you get on to nonprofit boards at such a young age and so early in your career?
So I went through a nonprofit, a 12-week nonprofit program called the Young Leaders Council. And at the end of it, to satisfy you going through the course, you had to be on a board. And so I joined a board that literally you probably wouldn't be on unless you're 60 plus years old and you have $50 million or more. And that was the board I wanted to get on. So like that was the hardest board to get on.
Set a goal.
So I did it way up here, and then all the rest of them were easy. And so I did I was on the board for Special Olympics, and we did the Special Olympics in Nashville. And but I probably spread myself a little bit too thin those first couple of years with regard to being on nonprofit boards. Yeah. But the nice part was in between each one of those board meetings, my internal goal or my personal goal was to go have coffee or lunch with each one of those people so I could get to know them really, because when you're sitting around a board table, you're just talking and nodding your head and whatever, and you're not really getting to know the individual. Right. So right. I did a lot of that, and those people would get added to my database, and a lot of those people are clients of mine now.
And I have to love this because I want, for everybody that knows, is I've been on over 100 boards over the years, and I will tell you right now, they're looking for you. Anybody that's listening to this podcast could be on a nonprofit or charity. And if you're young, you are actually at an advantage because of exactly what he just said. You have these 50 to 60-year-old men or older and women, and they have a certain mindset about things. Well, they're looking for a fresh perspective from that 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, even that 45-year-old person. So and I also, if you can get into like a young professionals council or one of those groups that will teach you kind of how to be a member of a board, it's going to only help you. So I love that.
And those boards need to know how to talk to the younger demographic. So having a couple of interns or younger people on the board is actually, it's actually in their best interest to see the betterment of that particular nonprofit in the future. The other piece is I would tell you, don't join a board because you think you're going to get business from it. Do it because it's near and dear to your heart or you're passionate about it. Like if you've got somebody in your family that's got, autism or it affects you in some capacity, go join it because you're passionate about it, or homeless people or Special Olympics or whatever it is. Don't do it because you think you're going to get business. Do it because there's something that's overwhelmingly, strong about that to your personal life.
100%. Absolutely. Special Olympics or whatever it may be. And in some cases, the group that you're with or the non-charity or nonprofit or the charity or nonprofit that you really want to work with, they may not even have a board yet. Don't be afraid to strike up a match and say, you know what, let's form one. What would that look like? And enough from Referrals Podcast that what that looks like. Between the event committee and the events, you can do your event committee of the nonprofit, do the event to raise funds, and do 3 or 4 of those a year. I mean, that could be your entire plan. So you did 23 in the first year, and we've unpacked that pretty good. I love how you instantly know, like at that time, you were trading time for money, right? Yeah. You were going to spend the time because you didn't have the money. Now you have a different plan in place. Your plan now is to to trade money for time. You'll invest in people to take the place of those things that used to take you time. So, so you went from 23, and then what'd you do in the next few years? Now we're going right into 7, 8, and 9, man. You know, this is for a lot of people, it was a punch in the gut. You know, so.
Yeah, so I think me getting in the business in 2006 and not having any money, I literally had my head down between 2006 and like 2010 or 11, and I knew the whole mortgage thing was going on, but like, I don't know. I've always had this mindset. Maybe my dad kind of instilled it in me. You can be successful in any market. It doesn't matter how you can. And so I just kept doing the basics at a really high level. When I joined Keller Williams, this is the only company I've ever been with. And they had Camp 443, which is now called Ignite. And, they just said, hey, here's a whole section on open houses. Here's a whole section on for sale by owners. Here's a whole section on expireds. Here's door knocking, here's all these things. And I tried each one of them for like 6 months. And if it didn't work, I moved on to something else. And so like 2007, 8, and 9, it was like, I did 7.5 million. I did like 13 million. I did like 18 million. So I was growing anywhere from 25 to 100% a year, depending on what year it was, until about 2016.
So one thing I have to say is that I love your dad's advice, or whoever gave, I mean, it's like, you can't control the economy, but you can control your economy. Yes, and that's really what you were doing is you were controlling your own economy, and you were just going where the business was there.
And you can control your calendar. You can control the time blocking of the calendar. You can control when you wake up. You can control your mindset, your attitude. I mean, you can't change the economy. It is what it is. The president, whoever it's going to be, it's going to be.
That's right. That's right.
So you just put your head down and grind it out. So I wasn't doing anything. I think looking back, I probably did things that people go, wow, that was really smart. But I don't know at the time that I was like intentionally, purposefully doing them.
Necessity, resourcefulness, right? It made sense for the time. Sometimes you just got to do it,
That's right.
So then you went up over 50 million. You did 86 million last year, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So what took you from, like, let's say 30 or 40 to 86? What helped you double your business from 40 million to 86 million that you did last year?
I think we're still working on it. I think a lot of it is, there's probably a handful of factors in there. One was finding the right people. And I know that's a really generic thing to say, but it was, it's finding the right administrative team. It's finding the right agents that can help with, buyer and seller leads.
So you brought on an assistant.
Yeah. The very first thing I did was, in probably late 2007, I brought on a part-time assistant just to do like these $10 an hour job things that I was like, why am I handwriting these postcards and
running signs?
Yeah.
Why are you running signs? Lock boxes. Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. So they were doing, it wasn't, I probably at the time didn't have like this great job description. It was kind of like, hey, whatever I need done is what you're going to, that's what I'm paying you for. And now we've got it really drilled down, and we've got, a director of operations, a director of marketing, 2 client care managers, a listing coordinator. So we've got all of that back in, and everybody's got a very detailed list of what they, what their job role entails. So, it's one of those things that, but starting out, your first assistant probably is a little bit of everything.
That's right. Yeah. So you're looking for somebody that will honestly do anything you say, which sounds bad, but it's like, they're gonna trust the heck out of you, and you just do it. And I have to tell you, some people incorporate the spouse that way. Never really my suggestion, but that does sometimes become the easiest, most necessary kind of thing. They start helping a little, and then before you know it, they're doing their 40-hour regular job, and then they're working 40 hours for you outside that regular job. You hired an outside assistant, right? It was somebody that was not related to you?
Correct.
Right. And then, so one of the things that you did is you started to leverage through more people's time versus just your time. And what did you do as far as lead generation from jumping from like 25 to 75?
What did you do
for lead generation? Like, what changed? At the beginning, it was all you doing all the lead generation. You were doing the events, you were doing, or the you were volunteering, and you were doing open houses.
I think the leverage of the first administrative hire allowed me to do more of it, go shake more hands, go have more breakfast, coffees, lunches, go to more networking events. And then the next day, if I went to a networking event, the next day would be to follow up with the people I met, write them a handwritten note, call them, and then, hey, can we go to lunch next week? So it was kind of a 3 or 4 pronged approach of like how I would network and then follow up with those people.
Yeah, one of the things I love from the story up to this point is you forced yourself into kind of what I call when you meet up. When you meet with people, a lot of people think, okay, I'm going to meet with my sphere or circle of influence or community of influence, and they think of their friends and they kind of meet and they're both in sweats or they're both in jeans and a sweatshirt. And my suggestion is, okay, you can do that for fun after hours, but what you should be doing during hours is when you meet people who are more successful than you. Yeah. And the thing about it is you're not going to be sitting there selling them anything because you're afraid to or whatever it may be. You're there to ask them for their advice and like, how did you become you're genuinely curious in learning and growing from them. So they're like, oh my gosh, this person is genuinely curious in learning and growing from me. Yeah. So I'm going to pour into them. And, you know, it's a wonderful type of dance, if you will. And you were really, when you meet up, you were meeting more powerful and more successful people.
Well, and I think it's also, you know, I think a lot of people go and do networking and they just naturally do it because it's a human behavior to like go talk and see other people in some capacity. And I think one of the things that a lot of people don't do is they don't do it intentionally. Yeah. So like, you know, if you look at every one of your days or you look at the end of the week, what did you do to move the business forward, to make yourself, you know, better, like your best self? Or what did you do this week to be healthier or maintain your health? What did you do to like move the business forward from a referral perspective or to go find buyer or seller leads or nurtures or whatever it is for your business? And I think a lot of people just aren't intentional or purposeful about doing it.
Yeah, love that. And I think the difference is that you kind of started out not purposeful, not intentional, and then you became really purposeful and really intentional and really strategic with it.
I saw the results of it and I go, God, if I went into these things and said, hey, could I add enough value that somebody felt like they needed to refer me business, whether it's now or 6 months from now, like what if I did that every single day?
Right. So recently you've gone from 86 transactions to over 100. And first and foremost, congratulations. The 100 transactions a year bar is a really amazing bar in the real estate world. For the people that don't know real estate, we have a lot of listeners outside of the real estate industry as well as in the real estate industry, is that, you know, the average realtor does 5 transactions a year. So 100 transactions is 20 times the average. We're talking an outlier of an outlier. So what took you from, you know, that 75 mark to over 100?
Working by referral is not some fairy tale world. It's real. I've seen it. And you can too. Invest in yourself by learning how to run your business by referral at Michael's upcoming live event. It will be a day filled with hands-on, how-to, low to no-cost strategies that you can implement in your business right away. Learn how to run a business by referral that not only feeds your family, but feeds your soul. Go to www.gengenevents.com today. That's www.gengenevents.com.
I want to clarify, I went from 86 million to 100 million. So it was like 200 transactions, what we did last year. And then,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
100 million, not 100 transactions.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, either way, it's really great. We've been working on that 100 million mark for a couple of years, but we'll do about 235 transactions this year.
Yeah.
But to get from 86 to 100 million was really just doing more of what we were doing. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, I'd love to tell everybody that I do something super special. And maybe I do, but I do the basics. I just do them really consistently, and I do them at a really high level.
So let's talk about that, right? So people talk about going back to the basics, and it's like, oh, it's just about going back to the basics. But if you ask them to define basics, they go, oh, it's getting toe to toe, ear to ear, face to face, belly to belly. And then, oh yeah, okay, so what's that mean? And they're like, I don't know. You know what I mean? So it's like, so let's talk about, let's go, what does that mean back to the basics,
I think for me, it's like, all right, if I was a client of someone's, and I am in several different capacities, what would I want them to do for me based on what industry it is? And, for us, we do a lot of housewarming parties. We do a lot of client events. We do a lot of community events. And so it's just giving back. We've got a nonprofit that gives back. And like we went to Walmart 2 days ago and bought, $2,000 worth of toys because we can.
Yeah.
And the more houses we sell, the more we can do that and the bigger level we can do it. So we went and bought, I don't know how many toys. I mean, I sat in the Walmart checkout line for, 25 minutes, just like ding, 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 and it's awesome because my kids have everything they need and a lot of what they want. And there's a lot of kids that aren't going to have a Christmas this year. So it's being able to and that might not be everybody's thing, but that makes me feel good to be able to go to Walmart and have enough extra money to be able to go do that.
Yeah.
And so
right.
that happens with our client events and
exactly.
all our rules.
So let's talk about the events, right? And I love what you did for Toys for Tots, and I don't know, my son became kind of like somewhat famous with he raised over 1,200 for Toys for Tots and got a couple of hundred toys for other kids. And awesome. He's a pretty shy little kid. He's 11, but he did a really good job on his interview. And he was just talking, and he just said, I want to make sure that other kids have a Christmas that's similar to mine, and so it's tied into that, how does it feel when you give those toys? It feels fantastic. And so what makes you able to feel fantastic that way is just raising the funds, is having a job that allows you to do that and the ability to give back. So talk about the events a little bit. How many events are you doing? What kind are you doing? And, we can kind of unpack that as we go.
Yeah. So historically we've done anywhere between, 4 and 6 client events a year. And I know one of the questions from people is probably going to be like, what's your one every year? And we're really, last year we kind of revamped and took everything off the table and are just revamping, because we used to do a lot of happy hours because they were easy. And, we realized that a lot of people aren't going to drive all the way across town or from if they work in a different area of town than where they live, it's just hard. So we kind of did away with all those last year. And, we've done fall fests. We've done, ice cream and barbecue socials in a park in our neighborhood where our office is. We just did the Frozen 2 movie, which was awesome. We had 175 people there, had face painting. We had, a dress up Elsa there, and we gave away, it was great. I mean, if I did another movie in the future, I probably wouldn't do one that's more female or girl driven. Disney's already got all their 2020 movies out. So you can easily go pick, Trolls is going to be a big hit. That one's
Mulan. Right? Mulan's coming up in March. We have a lot of people doing a movie event for Mulan. The other thing is the Avengers stuff. Anything that comes out with the Avengers or superheroes,
any Marvel stuff, any all that stuff's going to be a big hit. It's just picking one and doing it. So the one for the last 3 or 4 years that we have continued to do is for my top 25 referrals, and so 50 people show up because it's typically a husband and wife. We do it at our house. We probably spend 10 grand on it, but it is like an amazing 5-course sit down, unlimited everything. And we just talk about our year and how can we help you. And
once a year or every quarter?
That particular dinner is once a year, and they're invited to all the rest of our stuff.
That's right.
That's just for our top 25. And then we typically have one that is purely family friendly, whether it's a, barbecue and ice cream social at the park or the Frozen 2 movie or whatever it is. We've got one that's very family friendly. And then we have one that's just top 25. And then the rest of them are interweaved with different things like community events or nonprofit stuff. So the
happy hours are very adult friendly. You're not going to take a kid to a happy hour, and you've been you've been really good in that realm for years, with the happy hours. And so if you were going to give advice to somebody who was going to do events like this, the barbecue with the ice cream social, we always say, like, the secret to your summer events is ice cream. Whatever you do it with ice cream. If you're going to do the donut day on June 6th, do it with ice cream. Do it with there's Dunkin' Donuts and Baskin Robbins have partnered up. Tons of restaurants out there that are combined for that. But the bottom line is if you're going to do a pool party, do a pool party ice cream social, right? It's like ice cream is the word that gets them out of their house.
That's right.
So and then you've done the movie events, you've done the top 25, and then the happy hours. Like what one or two or three things would you tell people to do as they're thinking about doing these events?
I think for us, the biggest things, I think you just pick an event that you think is going to be a good turnout. Like we've done a Fall Fest a couple of times and it was great. So it's just picking one of those. But I think within the event, you've got to have a system. So, and I'm happy to send it to you and you can send it out or post it. But we have several playbooks on all these different events that we do. And it's kind of a checklist system. It's a really in-depth checklist system of, all right, we're going to send out the Eventbrite. We're going to do at least one live call. We're going to do a slide aisle voicemail reminder. We're going to do a text message. And then, we've got a whole system for that. And then they show up. We give them promo or swag items to walk away with, shirts, Yeti cups, whatever. Like we give crazy stuff away.
Everybody gets a gift, right? Everybody walks away a winner. That's always a winner, right? You want to be a winner, make everybody a winner. And that's a winning strategy. And I love that you're going to share these with with people for the downloads and things like that. What I really would encourage people to do is listen, read through those, go through those, create your own personal checklist and rock it from there. This is a huge gift from a guy with a huge heart. So that's a fantastic download.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. And I think the other piece is once you've shaken hands with them, talk to them, ask them about their house, ask them about their family, all those good things. We have a list of everybody that showed up because we have someone from the team checks them all in and does all the stuff. The next thing is we call them the next day or the next 2 or 3 days, depending on how many people are there. And we just check back in. Hey, we really appreciate you showing up for our event. We really meant it when we said, if you need anything with regard to your house, contractors, vendors, just anything. If you're thinking about buying an investment property, whatever it is, if it's commercial real estate and we don't do it, call us anyway. We'll put you in touch with the right people. Like it doesn't matter. So it's just always being a resource, always adding value, and then just continuing to follow up.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the beginning.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say real quick, like everybody gets caught up in this lead generation thing, and lead generation is important. But lead follow-up is where you make the money, and that's where you keep the clients for life.
Well, and that's the thing that people haven't been talking as much as they should about with the events, is when you follow up from an event that you have, or a one-on-one, or a phone call, the person on the other end, the person who is receiving the follow-up, they're thinking to themselves, if they follow up this well for an event, or for a one-on-one, or from a phone call, just imagine how great their follow-up is going to be on a referral. So you are actually modeling what you're going to do for a referral before you get the referral. So they have confidence giving you the referral, and you have the beauty that we used to do this with the pseudo referral program, or the quasi QRS, which was quasi referral system, which was we would get an introduction and then we would treat it as a referral. So when we got an introduction, when we reported back, hey, thanks for referring so-and-so instead of introducing, and we would just do the quasi referral system, we would follow up with this introduction like it was a referral of $1 million seller. Yeah. And we would just be all over it. Well, it's amazing how often that quasi referral system turns into referrals. That introduction, somebody just giving an introduction turns into a great referral source because we've run the referral play on an introduction, or in this case, run the referral play on an attendee or somebody we've met one-on-one. Love that.
Yeah.
So what about, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, it makes a big difference to you just got to you just got to do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just show up and do it. You can always refine it, hone in on it, and do it.
That's right. What's your invitations look like? So let's say you've got let's not do frozen because that's kind of the event that sells itself. Let's talk about like a happy hour. How would you invite me to a happy hour that you're having in a couple of weeks or whatever, or whenever that call would happen? You tell me when it happens.
Yeah. So a happy hour typically is a little bit, it's a little bit looser as far as like what we do. It might be more of a, an Eventbrite or something that they register, and then just so we have an idea of how much we're going to spend and how much like appetizers and food we need to get. But and then it'll be a screenshot of, whatever the image looks like, just as a reminder. But for something like our dinner party that we do for the top 25, that's like on a nice heavy cardstock. It's, I don't write those out. My assistant doesn't write those out. We get somebody to do those actual, and
like calligraphy.
Oh yeah.
Or better.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's always interesting on those because, we get pretty much like literally 100% attendance.
Yeah.
It's, and people even ask that is a good dinner that people ask throughout the year. They're like, hey, are you doing your dinner again? And am I invited? And part of what I tell them is not everybody comes back the next year. It's about the referrals throughout the year. And we love all of our clients and all of the referrals we get, but that's such a big dinner that it's the last 12 months of referrals.
It's super special. It's super special, right? That's the and the other thing is you don't have to say anything or call that anything, is that you don't have to call it a VIP program or a VIP dinner or whatever. It's the top 25 dinner, and they know that what it takes to get into it, So I love in the follow-up, and this is something I hope everybody that's listening is in the follow-up call, and they are doing calls. Even if there's 175, it's going to take 5 days to make those calls, but they have 3 to 5 people helping with that. But it's just like, hey, thanks for coming. It's been great. And we also wanted you to know that if you need anything to do with real estate, we're here to help. And I hope everybody wrote that down. Whether you're in real estate or financial planning or whatever it may be, an attorney, you can easily make that call and say, hey, listen, any legal question you have, I might not be able to answer it, but our firm should be, or whatever it may be. Any legal problem you have, come to us and be that resource,
Sure.
I love that. So what's been your biggest lesson learned when it comes to events?
I think the biggest, there's probably so many, but one of the big ones I would say is to do an event. You can do an event on a 2 weeks notice or a 30-day notice, but to do it really, really right, you got to have time. You got to have leverage. Even if you've got to have a third party do it for you or help you with it, if you want it done right, you can do a happy hour with 20 or 30 people in 2 weeks or less, or 30 days or less. But like, we've got all of our stuff on our calendar for 2020 already. Right before I jumped on with you, I was with my director of operations and my director of marketing talking about the venues and event space and like all of it. I mean, it takes more, and there's a reason that there's event planners out there, because people don't realize.
Amen to that.
You start forgetting certain things. You're like, oh, nobody got the, forks and knives, or, you got all the food and all the, chairs and tables and blah, blah, blah. And you forgot, one key little thing that you're like, dang, I thought you were getting it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't ruin the night because everybody's having a good time, but
they don't even notice. What are they going to notice? Run out of food, run out of beer, run out of gifts. You don't want to run out of those 3 things,
Have too much of those. If you have to spend a couple $100 extra bucks to get, an extra 10 heads worth of food, no big deal. Do it.
Yeah. I remember
homeless, or you can go give it to your employees or whoever's left over, just give the leftovers.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I remember doing a launch party for 7L, think about that, and we got appetizers, and there you go. Way to fly the colors, brother. Hey, man, I love it.
I keep it, look, it's up here with Gary Keller and all the repositioning and all the paving fans and all the good stuff up here.
Thank you. I hope Ken Blanchard and Gary Keller appreciate that as much as I do, right? So I think it is one of those where it's like we ran out of food and like Bob Corcoran, like, no, bring in the food. They brought in 2 more whole trays of food and he saved my butt. I just remember that. And isn't it funny that when there is a problem, we tend to remember who saves our butt, who really helped us out.
Sure.
So, what motivates you? What drives you? I mean, you've got 10 years of military behind you. You're now in your 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th year, 14th year in real estate. What drives you on a daily basis?
I think the drive is well, I grew up on a farm, so I naturally have work ethic and grit, and I'm used to hustling. And then I was in the military and it gave me all of those things plus discipline and more structure. And, I think, part of it is I want to be my best self. I want to be number one at whatever I'm doing. And I don't want to lose clients. Like, it's so much easier to keep clients than it is to go constantly, find Zillow leads to find new leads. Our business just isn't run on that. And it's all based and predicated on past clients, loving on them. And I don't know that ever changes. So that's what drives me is I want them, when they think of the word real estate in anywhere in Middle Tennessee or Nashville, they're thinking Josh Anderson and the Anderson Group. And, if we can't do it, I'm happy to tell them we can't do it, but I'll put them in touch with the right people.
Well, that's a great segue. So if somebody was reaching out to refer Nashville, refer you in that area, or wanted some help in the area, how would they do that? How would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so they can go to our website, joshandersonrealestate.com, or they can email me at josh@joshandersonrealestate.com.
And it's JOSHANDERSON.
That's correct.
Real estate, REALESTATE.com, Josh Anderson, and Josh at joshandersonrealestate.com, Nashville, Tennessee. Man, this guy's a go-getter. He's a rising star. Hard to say somebody that's doing 100 million is a rising star. But I have to tell you, just like we were talking about pre-show, he said this is our best year yet. He didn't say best year ever. He said best year yet. And that's how a top producer thinks. That's how a guy that's got much better and bigger things in the future. And Josh, we'd love to have you on again down the road and just really unpack some of these. And I have to tell you, I want the listeners to chime in here. If you're listening to this, I want you to email me at podcast@referco.com, podcast @referco, referco.com. And you know what? I want you to email me with, I wish you would have asked this question, Michael, to Josh. I wish you would have asked, or I want to know more about this, about what Josh just talked about. I want to know more about the movie event and what he did with that. Or I want to know more about this top 25 dinner. What did he give everybody? We've left some questions unanswered. And what I want you to do, listeners, is I want you to email me right now, right after you get done with this jog or this walk or whatever you're doing. I want you to open up an email. I want you to email us at podcast@referco.com and say, you know what? These are the questions I'd ask Josh if I was in charge of Referrals Podcast. And you know what? We'll get him back on and we'll dive deeper on all of this. I truly believe it's just like I keep saying, it's like Josh Anderson is smarter than you when it comes to getting referrals. And we only unpacked a little bit of why that is. And I'm very, very excited about the future. And I love how you're doing a mixture of the one-to-one strategy, the one-to-one approach that kind of we talk about in 7L system, but you've combined it with this one-to-many strategy that we're talking about with the client events. Love it.
Thanks for the opportunity. I would love to come back on. I'm happy to answer any questions. I love it. I love talking about this stuff. I want everybody to level up and get better.
Awesome. Josh, I really appreciate it. Thanks for being a guest on Referrals Podcast.
Yeah, thanks. Have a great day.